Well, hello everyone out there in the fort. This is Rod Harris. I'm in the larger Bay Area here in San Francisco in California. I wish I could be out there with you in person, but we're still doing this Zoom thing for now. So today I wanted to talk to you about a guide for first generation study abroad students. There's some obstacles and difficulties that maybe others haven't experienced there before. So with that in mind, let's get started. Of course, you know, the first question for anybody is why do you want to study abroad? And really, it's beyond being an academic sort of event, it's a personal event as well. It's going to change your life in terms of world perspective, cultural perspectives, pretty much any way you see the world. 4 months overseas, immersed in another culture just has a way of changing people, and it's a sort of change that will affect you for the rest of your life in very positive ways, professionally, personally. And like it says here, you're going to develop those cross-cultural competencies and stand up from the crowd. Okay. A second question you might have is why SAI? What role does SAI play with CSU, and how do we work? So just a little bit on us. We're a small international education organization, and we've been around for 25 years. You can see our locations there in Italy, Spain, and France. We have worked with CSU for the majority of those 25 years. I think it's about maybe 21 years we've been working directly with CSU, and had many students visit our programs from that campus. So matter of fact, you're going to hear from one in just a moment. And another question you might have is, why would somebody study abroad with SAI? And it really goes back to that sort of small program offering that we are. We're not trying to be in every country in the world. We specialize in 3 countries, and we're good at what we do, and you get lots of personal attention. Of course, there's a community emphasis, that integration that I was speaking about, where we get you involved in the community and really get a hands-on with the sort of cultural experience that you're going to be having. They're very immersive experiences. You will have all sorts of opportunities for volunteering, internships, which can be credit-bearing or non-credit bearing. And excursions. Almost every day we have excursions for you. So lots going on. You're going to be very busy while you're there. Of course, you know, it's your choice to do as many of those excursions as you like. But if you like, they're there for you, and they're a lot of fun. Personal safety and support. You're going to find we have an office on campus at all of our locations. So from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, you'll have an office just like you do at CSU. And then when those normal office hours aren't available, you'll have an emergency phone to call in case something comes up. So enough about SAI and sort of the general questions. Actually, there's, one more slide. Some of these services and logistics that I talked about that SAI provides, I'll let you take a peek at those. So basically, when you're there, you're going to have an experience that covers just about every aspect of daily life. The only thing that really is not included with the SAI experience is going to be your airfare and food. Beyond that, we've got you pretty well covered from the time you arrive till departure. So, like I said, we have sent many, I don't think we're in the thousands yet, but we're close, CSU students over the years. And I just went to one blog from maybe a year or so ago from an alumni, Aileen. And I thought her words here were very, were key for anyone that's first generation. If you look and see where the highlighted is here, I was unsure, any uncertainty, you name it, I was extremely unsure. I was worried about everything under the sun. I couldn't turn to my parents for navigational support. It goes on and on. So really what this addresses is sort of the first obstacle of a first generation study abroad student. And that is, you have nothing to compare it to. There's no, and your family most likely has nothing to compare it to. And most likely your friends don't either. So You come into it with a great bit of uncertainty and perhaps anxiety, but that's what it's the CSU Study Abroad Office is for, and that's what SAI is here for, to sort of help you navigate that initial step. So with that in mind, it's a big world, right? You have to find the right location. Essentially, these days, you can pretty much study abroad anywhere you want to, whether it be Western Europe, whether it be South America, China, you name it. There's very few locations that don't offer a study abroad experience. So finding the right location. And I guess you can go right to the dreams you've had all of your life about where you'd like to be and what fascinates you. And perhaps it's the weather, perhaps it's the culture, perhaps it's the food. But I'm sure in each of our minds, we have 2 or 3 places where we've always thought of where, boy, if I could ever be there, that'd be great. So begin your list right there. And then you're going to write out pros and cons. And pros and cons, they're completely personal and they're up to you. I mean, for instance, for one person, a con might be that they want to study in Brazil, but they don't speak Portuguese or they don't speak Spanish. And so, there's going to be there's going to be a learning curve in terms of understanding and communicating. And that can be difficult, but of course you won't be doing it by yourself. There'll be a lot of other students in that same boat. But for some folks, they prefer to study in locations where English is spoken. So there are pros, there are cons. Other pros and cons can be cost. It can be relatively inexpensive to study abroad in certain parts of the world, and it can be very expensive to study abroad in others. So there's quite a few factors that play into the pros and cons of getting that right location. And that brings us to costs, projected costs. Basically, what I try to tell students is to look at this process as you're going to be living the same life you live here. You have to eat 3 times a day. You've got other expenses, personal expenses, entertainment, travel, all of these things. And I think you'll find all sorts of help from the CSU Study Abroad Office and SAI in terms of sort of helping you put together an itinerary and agenda and getting an idea on what these 4 months might end up costing. Of course, we can get the specifics. Let's see, if we're talking about, we'll know the tuition for sure, we'll know your rent for sure, we'll know your books for sure. But after that, there's a lot of other things to consider, that daily life stuff that adds up. Of course, you are going to be studying abroad, and so it's critical that the courses you take are in line to help you graduate on time. Of course, again, I'll go back to SAI and the CSU Study Abroad Office, as well as maybe your major advisor on campus. It's critical that you take courses that help you advance, and it is a pretty rare example when that happens, that somebody doesn't take it. So just know that we'll be there with you just to make sure that we're going in the right direction towards graduation. And yeah. So after you've got a few of these things sort of written down and thought about it, maybe talk to friends and parents and perhaps CSU alums that have been on these programs, wherever they've been. It's time to kind of maybe get 1 or 2 or 3 that really interest you and start doing some deeper research. And it's pretty simple after that. You're going to eventually pick your country, and that's a big step. That's obviously you're going to be spending a lot of time in this place, and it's time to begin that entire process, which typically is a 4 to 5 to 6 month process of preparation. So you'll want to begin early on application and passports and all of the paperwork that goes along with CSU's office, as well as SAI. It's not a quick process. It takes quite a bit of time. Good news is, by the time we get you there, you're going to be all set. You'll know exactly what your classes are, where you're going, when, where, who, how. So it's all that process work really comes and pays off in the end. So here's the big question, because not all of us are independently wealthy. We've got to find a way to pay for this. And like I talked about a few minutes ago, the different parts of the world have different costs associated with it. So it's very likely, if you were to study in some parts of the world, it may cost less for you to study abroad than to stay a semester at CSU. Now, with that in mind, it can cost considerably more to study in other parts of the world. A good example of a super expensive place to study abroad is Paris. Very high housing costs there. Everything in Paris, just as it's just such an international draw, sort of a hub for the world. It's just very, very expensive. And like I said, other parts of the world, not so much. And of course, in between all of those two is lots of places that could be quite similar to what you're paying at CSU. So a lot to consider there. And through the process of enrollment and all of that, we'll figure out, what your costs are, what can be afforded, what can't, and how to fund this thing. Of course, there's going to be scholarships all over the place. In a very short answer, how can I pay for study abroad? It really comes down to this. It's going to be how much, if you're looking for help, if you're looking for financial help to get it done, it's going to be how hard are you willing to work. In my experience, if you are even an average student, but you are willing to put the footwork in to find those scholarships and those applications and fill them out early and fill them out well, you're going to have opportunities. A lot of times these scholarships are based on need as well as merit. So it really is about putting your best foot forward. Nothing is more of a waste of time that I've seen than when a person applies for a scholarship, whatever it might be, and does not take the time to cross all their T's and dot all of their I's and make sure they signed the document, dated it, so on and so forth, grammar checked whatever sort of essay you wrote. Scholarships are a great opportunity, and there's lots of them out there, whether they're scholarships coming from your campus there in Fort Collins, or whether it's SAI. SAI provides quite a few scholarships every semester and for summer sessions as well. And we have a long history of helping CSU students get abroad with financial help through these scholarships. So in short, Google scholarships for where you want to go, what you want to do. They're out there. There's no shortage. It's a matter of footwork and paperwork for that matter. Grants, you're going to find, you're going to find those coming from all sorts of sources, whether they be municipal, city, town, state, different organizations, Lions Club, whatever it might be. There's, again, Google's your best friend. Grants for study abroad, Google. And if you're willing to put in the footwork, willing to fill out those applications neatly and concisely, and really paint the best picture of yourself that you can, while being accurate and honest, then those grants are there. And they certainly have helped a lot of students study abroad. Fellowships can be a little harder to come across, but that would be somewhere where you're looking within the department of your major, or the school within your university that you're in. But fellowships are there, and typically they're very well paying, or they provide a lot of help if you can land one of these fellowships. Of course, everyone knows about loans. The question has come up quite a bit in my 20 or so years of being involved with international education. And the question is, is it appropriate to take out loans? Do you want to borrow money to study abroad? And ultimately, that's a very personal decision, and one that you're going to have to consider carefully. Of course, these loans have to be paid back. Is the risk versus reward worth it? I think it's absolutely worth it in terms of the academic experience, cultural experience you're going to have. But at the end of the day, when you do graduate, those loans are going to be sitting there, and it won't be too much longer after you graduate before they start asking you to start paying them back. So. Like I said, a very personal decision, and one that you have to take very seriously. But is it worth it for the vast majority of students if they have to borrow some money to study abroad? I would say yes, but your own personal experience may not be. So, of course, the staff at the CSU office will definitely talk with you about different options there too. There's state loans, federal loans, private loans, all sorts of loans. So Of course, there is the time-honored tradition of saving your own money, and I have worked with many students over the years that came in as a freshman, got hooked on the idea of studying abroad. They knew it wasn't going to be for 2 more years because they were going to go in their junior year or their senior year, and every penny they got from their on-campus jobs, from their summertime jobs, from grandma and grandpa for Christmas and birthdays and so on and so forth. I've seen plenty of students fund the vast majority of their study abroad through really penny pinching and sort of having that goal in mind of studying abroad. Long-term goal, 2 years of saving, and just making sure that that bank account is building and building. Now, crowdfunding is new to me. This was in some of the research that I did, but apparently crowdfunding is coming into play in terms of helping students gather money. So I don't have a lot of experience in crowdfunding, but I do know that if you go back again to Google and Google crowdfunding for study abroad, you're going to find all sorts of platforms, I guess is what they would be called, that would be good for building income to eventually get you overseas. Now, with all of that said, I want to very quickly go over some of the programs that have been very popular for CSU students. As, like I said, we've worked together for 20 years or so. 2 schools in particular have drawn quite a large number of CSU students, and that's Florence University of the Arts in Florence, Italy, and John Cabot University in Rome. The curriculum there, as you can see, as you're looking at the slide here, is it's a large umbrella of curricular options, and so it fits a lot of students' needs. And the locations, Florence and Rome, happen to be pretty great locations too. So it's a good curricular fit for a lot of students and a great place to be and experience in person. A number of your fashion students, design students, merchandising students have been to these schools here that you'll see. And then we get to the smaller schools. These are for the, there's big study abroad locations, Rome, Florence, Paris, Barcelona, big cities. And then you have the smaller ones. These are for folks that are looking, you can see in the picture here, this is a relatively small town, the Amalfi Coast. And you're not going to have the, you're a couple hours train ride from the big cities, but you're essentially in kind of a small town. And for some students, that's more important than being in the big city. So occasionally we see some students, CSU students, visit here as well. And then you'll see as we leave Italy and we get out into France, a few schools there. Or you'll see a lot of fashion students for all of our locations. And we move over to Barcelona. And over the last couple of years, Autonoma, there you see the school on top, went from 0 CSU enrollments to a pretty steady flow, actually. So it's become popular with quite a few students there on the campus. Now this is all probably obviously pre-COVID, so we're sort of ramping back up again. But I think the coursework and the location, Barcelona, is and the location of the school, which is directly downtown, just a couple blocks from the beach, and it's just a great place with a great curriculum too. Some internships. I mentioned lots of students do internships. These can be anywhere from 3 credit hours, no credit hours, all the way to 15 credit hours. So depending on your major and what you need to take, we have all sorts of options there for you. And we have lots of students, CSU students, that do internships with us while they're abroad. As I mentioned, I believe I'm coming up on my 20 minutes. So as I mentioned, my name is Rod Harris, and you can consider me your contact for SAI. It's rodney@saiprograms.com. And of course, you can call the office to reach me that way as well. I visit campus generally 2 to 3 times a year. I have not been on campus now approaching 2 years. As a matter of fact, it is 2 years now, given the pandemic. So very much looking forward to being back in your neck of the woods. But for now, we're going to have to do these things virtually. So please feel free to reach out to me, email or through the phone, and glad to answer any questions you might have. With that, I want to say thank you, and I hope this was informative. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer them. I think I will turn it back over to my moderator.
Thanks, Rodney. That was an awesome session. We really appreciate all the students who are tuning into this now or post-fair. We will have additional sessions throughout the week, so we're excited to see you at future sessions. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you again so much, Rodney.
Thank you.
Have a good day.